Recently, I played through Gears 5 with Seth and Sky, and these are our real thoughts after finishing the game. I want to start off with I am not a huge Gears fan. I've played Gears 1 through 3, but it's been a really, really long time. Like, I think the last time I played them was the year they came out, respectively. And then I didn't play Gears 4, but I watched a recap of it. And then Gears 5, I have played, and this is my second playthrough. And I enjoyed it, but I think there's a lot of weird design elements that are carried over from, I guess, just because every game in the series has had them, that I think this game feels kind of dated to play, even though it's new.
That's fair. I was just gonna say, like, I've never played a Gears game, so, like, this is pretty fun.
Well, like you were saying, and I was thinking, I don't like the reload mechanic at all. The fact that you have to press reload twice and you have to time the second one, if you're in the heat of battle, it's really annoying because you hit the reload button, you have to divert your attention away from what's going up on the screen to the top right, and then you just get downed half the time. I think that was half the time I got downed was because I was trying to reload. And it's a cover shooter, which, you know, I don't hate cover shooters, but I think I much prefer shooters that reward you for being more aggressive and running around and a lot of movement stuff. So like Titanfall, been playing a lot of Apex, Halo, Doom, those kinds of games, which are more movement focused. I don't really like sitting stuck to a wall and shooting. I think the shooting is fine. There's a bit of a lack of feedback to things, I think, when they die, though we were using grenade headshots, which made enemies explode when you killed them with a headshot, which was fun. But it feels like every weapon doesn't have like an oomph to it, I think.
I think my problem with the game is it didn't do anything really well. There's nothing special about it, you know? I mean, it was just a pretty average third-person shooter, and this is also my first Gears game. It just didn't really feel that. I mean, like, it's fine, but I feel like I said, there's a lot of really weird design choices. Like, I feel like the reload could be fixed. It was just like at the bottom of the screen, like next to like your character or something.
And I think the reason with the reload has been in every Gears game, so it's like a staple of the series, I guess, when maybe it's not the greatest mechanic. And I think that's sort of what brings Gears 5 down, is because when I played Gears 1, I played the Ultimate Edition, so I think it's, you know, it's remastered, it's a bit changed. It's not exactly the original because it's built from the ground up as a remaster, but Gears 5 doesn't feel that much different from Gears 1. So I feel like maybe they haven't iterated on a lot of design mechanics throughout the games, because it's like with every Halo game feels very distinct from one another, except between 3 and ODST. But they're all very different, and they all play differently, and they all feel very different. But Gears 1 and Gears 5 feel nearly identical, and not in a good way. The games are fine, I guess. They're like solid, and I personally wasn't having any issues, but Seth was having tons of issues, and then Sky and Seth kept crashing at one part of the game.
Yeah, I had a couple crashes, and then just, like, at the end, that very weird audio bug, but nowhere near what Seth had.
I wouldn't blame the game for my issues. I wouldn't even blame my PC specs. I blame my computer in general, because one knows that this computer is like absolutely crazy. It's just so messed up.
We'll have to talk about your computer sometime, but Seth's computer is cursed.
Yeah, like actually.
He created digital storage, so it says he has like 9 terabytes of storage when he doesn't.
Yeah. And
9 terabytes?
yeah, when I don't, it's a whole rabbit hole. Which probably like
It's very odd. So for all we know, Seth has like a completely jam-packed hard drive, and that's what's causing issues, but we really don't know. In terms of visual quality, the game looks really nice because it's Unreal Engine 4, right? It might be Unreal Engine 3, but either way, it's very good looking, and we were playing the cutscenes with big heads, so it was a little hard to appreciate the cutscenes, but like the cutscenes are really well done. The voice acting is good. I like the characters a lot. They have a lot of personality. It almost reminds me of Uncharted in terms of how the characters' personalities are.
I don't know. I didn't get that.
The level of detail on the environments are really nice.
The graphic design's great, and I like the music too. The sound in the music was also pretty good.
I think also I'm just used to Halo because I've been playing a ton of Halo, where fighting different enemies require different tactics. So it's like, oh, with a grunt, you know, you just shoot them in the head. Oh, with a jackal, you know, you got to get around their shields and shoot them there. With an elite, you got to take down their shields. They'll try to retreat, then you got to take them down like that. With a brute, you got to break down their shields and whatever. So like, there's different tactics for dealing with them. But with Gears, it's just shoot enemy in the head until they die. And then there's a couple of enemies that are like different shapes that aren't humanoid, and those are just bullet sponges. Carriers are bullet sponges. Big thing with a turret is a bullet sponge. Swarmak is a bullet sponge. Pouncer is a bullet sponge. They don't feel like there's any kind of skill to dealing with them. You just keep shooting them and avoid their attack.
I thought that all of the bosses, especially the big boss fight enemies, were really lame. Like, I don't think I liked any of them.
Yeah,
all of them were just keep holding down left click and eventually get to a cutscene and then it'll end.
The only half-decent boss fight you weren't here for, which was the Swarm Queen, whatever it was, the Berserker Queen, where she would charge at you and you would have to get her over like ice, and then you would destroy the ice and she'd get frozen and you'd shoot her in the back. And so that was
actually really fun. Like,
Oh,
I
damn.
enjoyed that.
that was a good boss fight because the build up to that boss fight is we're going through a level where we learn the mechanics of get enemies down into the ice and they freeze to death. So like it sort of sets you up for the boss fight, so you know it's like, hey, here's what we need to do. And even the boss fight starts with the boss going into the water and freezing up, so you get that section of like, oh, okay, this is how we're gonna beat this boss. So it's like a really good setup, and it was actually a lot of fun. It was a bit of a tough boss fight, but the rest of them were not that great. The big swarm monster, it's literally the same boss fight twice. The big worm at the end.
Yeah, that was really
That
good.
was really lame.
I think it was a little cheesy to have a pick who you want to die bit right at the end, because I think any normal person would have picked Dell to save, because they set it up. Dell is with you the entire game. Either you hate Dell, which I don't really think anybody does, because Dell's a fun character and I liked him a lot. But then it's like, why would I not choose Dell? Because JD's not been here the entire time.
Choice just felt out of place. It was like were there any other choices throughout the game?
No, I don't
And that just felt really out of place.
And I think also, because you guys have never played a Gears game, and I haven't played in a long while. I got a couple of the references to the other Gears games. Like during Act 2, there's a big giant worm carcass, which was a boss in Gears 2 or 3. I can't remember. But like any of the references to the previous games you guys wouldn't have gotten. Not that that affects the story, because I think the story is pretty well contained. But like it also feels like, and I know this is a sequel to Gears 4, so like you would have had to play Gears 4, but they don't quite explain everything that's going on from Gears 4.
For the most part, it felt clear enough. I don't know. I didn't have any questions, but it was like it definitely felt like there was something else that like, oh, there's some detail that's missing here, but nothing that makes it so you just don't know what the fuck's going on. Not that bad. It was good.
I think the open world sections, like I don't know what else to call them, like the bit where we're going around the tundra and then the bit where we're going around the sand. I think those were kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely. They were very
The game did this the first time I played, and it bugged out now. I cannot drive that stupid skiff. I can't drive it. It does not let me. I would get on, and it just wouldn't let me do anything. And so that's really frustrating. And that's game breaking. Like, if I were playing by myself and I couldn't do that, I literally couldn't complete the game. But luckily, I was playing with you guys, and you were able to do it. Yeah, those were fun little bits. And we didn't do any of the side stuff, but my first time I played through, I did some of the side stuff. And they're not really, like, real side missions or anything. It's just, like, a couple little side objectives that you just shoot some stuff, and then that's about it. And you get a little extra lore that isn't required to understand the story, but it's like to flesh out the world, which I guess is nice. All the environments were nice. You go through, there's like a jungle at the beginning, then a couple of urban areas, then like the snow, then the desert, and then back to like destroyed urban areas.
Definitely a good amount of variety.
And then in terms of the mutators that we were using, Big Head Mode was hilarious.
Those were fun.
We started off with the audio designer having done the voices of the guns, which was really funny for about 5 minutes before it got super annoying.
Yeah.
Grenade headshots were actually pretty satisfying. Dave Batista as Marcus Phoenix. You guys have never played a Gears game, so that's all you have as like a baseline for Marcus Phoenix, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, yeah.
I think he did a pretty good job. I think it's really funny that they went through the effort of replacing John DiMaggio with Dave Batista, all the voice lines as well as his character model. And they did a pretty good job, because he's not like a major character or anything in this game, so it wasn't anything major they had to change, but there's still quite a few voice lines.
And to bring your point you mentioned earlier about how like all the enemies feel like the same and very bullet spongy, I think that has to do with just like the Gears franchise in general, because obviously this game didn't release back in like 2006 from pretty popular, but that's probably like the norm back then, minus Halo. And I think if you're a Gears fan, you will really enjoy this game. It's more Gears. I mean, if you're really not a Gears fan, it's okay. But there's nothing really that would make you go, yeah, I want to play that game in particular because of that reason, unless you just are a big Gears fan.
It does definitely feel like a game that was built for fans of the series, which I know is kind of ironic because it's the 5th game in the series, but like they didn't try to water down or change mechanics that hardcore fans would maybe alienate hardcore fans, where like I think the Halo series did that with like Reach started changing things, Halo 4 changed a lot, Halo 5 changed a lot, where like hardcore fans of the series were like, we don't like these changes. I think Gears 5 is incredibly faithful to the originals in terms of the gameplay, which is good and bad.
I don't think, the game's good. good. I don't think it's something I'd ever would have played on my own time, but that kind of thing, like everything's more fun with friends, that kind of thing. I don't know if it's something I necessarily enjoy solo. Also, playing as Jack is just, that's an experience of itself.
It seemed fun for the most part, except for the parts where you don't get to do anything.
It's either you have this playstyle of where you just run ahead of everybody, flank around, tase things, and then when you get ability to possess, that becomes really fun. But then the other half of the time, you're basically just a camera. That whole final boss fight, I had my hands off the keyboard and mouse because there was nothing I could do. I just watched.
And it seems kind of funny because they have like little sections where like only Jack can activate this button, or only Jack can go in this little area to activate doors, or only the two main characters can open these doors, or only the two main characters can activate these buttons. So it's like just like a random amount of those things. There's so many buddy doors in this game, which are really stupid. There's an excessive amount of them. You want to get to this door. We need your friend to be here so we can load the thing into the same point without teleporting him over. So wait. I don't think there's anything stand out bad. I don't think there was anything that made me go, wow, this is really bad. But there were a couple of things that were like, this is kind of stupid.
Definitely. I think if I had to like do it over again, I would not play Jack just so you can actually shoot things. But it was fun.
If I had to give a compliment to the game, I think the weapon variety is really good. I just like the creativity of the weapons overall. I actually didn't stick with one gun for most part, and that's kind of common. I use like everything, and I, for the most part, liked everything.
Yeah, most of the weapons are pretty much all the enemies die at the same rate, so it's like you can use whatever weapon you want. I really like the Retro Lancer because you charge forwards while you're screaming and then just like stab something, lift it over your head, and then bury it deeper in your knife and then just throw it off, which is like inhuman strength. It's very excessive and I like it.
Yeah, I can tell the weapon design is really cool.
Oh, and then one of the other mutators we had was multiplayer skins for my weapons and characters. So we decided to make the characters look as dumb as possible. So I gave Kate I can't remember what their football thing. I had a big ass football outfit, and then Dell had the stupid goggles. JD had some kind of dumb goggles as well.
Should have had some Jack customization. Was that even a thing?
There is, yeah. You can make Jack, you can make him look like he's made out of cardboard, but you would have had to have bought the skin.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
It's in-game credits, but I don't know if you have any because you haven't done the multiplayer.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like most of the Gears games are focused on the multiplayer. Because like I've only heard people talk about the multiplayer, honestly. I've never heard a thing about the campaign.
I think every one of the games has a pretty generously lengthened campaign in terms of Halo. Like, it's that sort of similar style where it's not like every campaign is not just thrown together as like a mandatory thing like Call of Duty. They put a lot of effort into the campaigns, I think, to set them aside from just being a couple of multiplayer maps.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like an afterthought at all.
One of the things we didn't talk about, the use your gun ability button is set to the reload button. So sometimes it's like, oh, I want to rev up my chainsaw. I press R. Well, I accidentally pressed R instead of holding R. And now I have to go through the reload animation. Oh, I accidentally pressed R again because I wanted to hold it down. Oh, I jammed my weapon. Now I have to wait for the weapon to unjam to use the thing, and then I'm dead. That's kind of annoying.
I definitely thought this game was meant to be played with a controller. I mean, the PC controllers are fine, don't get me wrong. But I mostly use
it. It is super weird. And I said this joke in Gears 1, but like spacebar for running. If you ever want to vault over something, you have to crouch into it and then go over it so you look like an idiot. Go up on a cover and then jump, and then go up on a cover and then jump. But just go over. There's no button for that.
I think they maybe do that just them wanting to follow like the original Gears formula so close because they're scared of getting backlash like Halo did. So I think there's like, let's just make everything exactly the same, even if it's awful. It doesn't make any sense from a design standpoint. Or anyway.
I liked the designs of the Swarm. They're mostly exactly the same classes as the Locust, which were the enemies from the first 3 games. You guys wouldn't really know because you never saw them, but like they look a little different and they act a little different, but I think they look cool, and they're not a big departure from anything, I think, because the Halo series, like when they got to 4, was a pretty big departure on how everything looked. And then they were able to introduce, new characters. Like in the first 3 games, you play as Marcos, but in these, you play as Kate, JD, and Dell. A new cast of characters, but the old cast still shows up, and you get those nods like, oh, hey, Clayton from Gears 3, and the Coltrane, the best character from all the Gears games, and Baird and stuff, and they're doing different things.
Yeah, I think, honestly, like characters are what kept me playing. But then again, it doesn't really make sense that you can kill off one of them. I mean, I guess it doesn't ruin the game. It just feels like out of place and they like tacked on at the last minute just to get some like emotional reaction out of you. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of weird if they just chose one and the character died. I think that would have been a lot more natural and shocking. It's like, oh, now I get to choose who dies.
It felt a lot like that same choice you had to make at the end of, is it Battlefield 4?
Battlefield 4, where it's just like, oh, do I want to kill this annoying bitch or this annoying bitch?
Yeah, like it was like it didn't do anything for the story.
There's a bit of a cutscene difference because the first time I played, I let JD die. There's a bit of a cutscene difference because JD is Marcus's son. It's a bit more sentimental when JD dies because Marcus has lost so many people throughout the wars, but like it doesn't affect the progression of the story at all. For the next game, unless they do it like 2 separate versions where each character is there depending on your save file from 5, they're gonna pick one that's canon. So either Dell died or JD died.
Yeah, like there has to be a wrong choice there.
Wolfenstein 2 actually does it where a character that you pick to die in the first game, that carries over into the second one. You only see the character that survives, which is an interesting choice.
Doesn't Mass Effect do that?
Mass Effect does that as well, yeah.
Wouldn't that mean they would have to basically write 2 different campaigns? They'd have similar events, but like they'd have completely different writing if those characters actually show up, don't they?
I think the characters are minor enough that they don't affect the overall plot, but it's neat that they took the effort to do that.
Yeah, that would definitely be a lot of work.
I mean, I don't know. They seem like they put a lot of work into these games, so that it might be in the next one. It also feels like they know where they're going. It's not like Halo 4 and 5, where Halo 4 was a complete departure from the series, and then Halo 5 was a departure from 4 that they had set up. Gears 4 takes place many years after Gears 3, so they set up a new plot line, and they follow it through for 5, and it seems like they're going to be following it through for 6. So they know where they're going, and they don't have to reboot the series.